This is my 30-gallon planted aquarium. I've had this tank specifically running for about 8 years, but about 6 months ago or so I had a lot of die-off with a lot of my plants. The fish in here are geophagus. Actually, I think it's Centoperca jupari, but at the fish store they call them geophagus, and that is Latin for earth eater, which means these fish, the cichlids, there's 2 of them in here, are constantly digging in the ground, so it makes planted aquariums somewhat difficult. You got to be willing to get your elbows wet and keep replanting, and use rocks as well as plant anchors to keep things going, especially to get them rooted, get things started. You can see the plant anchors that I use, they're rubber. I tried to grow some glossostigma, but I had bad timing, and I purchased the glosso about a week before I was going away, and it looked like it was starting to take off, but when I went away I sort of put the tank into low-tech mode. I lowered the lighting and turned off the CO2, and that combined with the fish digging constantly kind of killed off all the glosso. Got a couple of stems in there that I'm hoping will take off, but I'm going to probably try this plant again, get a fresh batch. Anyway, besides that, I have plants that I've added in the past few months. Ludiwdgia repens, as you can see, is doing quite well. I started out with about 5 stems, and have had to cut it several times. Got some new plantings on the right. Seem to be going very well. As you cut it, it gets more bushy, and as it grows towards the light, it gets a nice red color. If you had really high light, you'd probably see red all the way through. But actually, you know, if you look underneath the leaves, even the lower ones, they have a red tint on the bottom, which is basically what you're expecting from this plant. But been in there 3 months. I've been running CO2 for about 2 months. Here you have cabomba carolinia, which seems to be also doing very well. Again, I started with about 5 stems, and this thing grows like crazy. Really fills in the tank nicely, and it sucks up nutrients. Fast-growing plant. It's just good for the aquarium, although I may slowly replace it with other plants like the ludiwdgia as it grows in. But I like it. Can be messy. In the past I've planted it and run it without CO2, and although it does show fast growth and does get bushy, it tends to break apart and be a little bit more delicate. I've noticed with the CO2 it doesn't break up as much. Used to have trouble with it clogging up my filter intake. As you can see now, it's growing around the filter intake, covering it up, so you can't see it that well. You can see the intake there. And yeah, you do need to clean it off, but it is much less fragile than in the past. This little oto sucking on the glass, and some rummy nose tetras. This crypt plant here is my oldest plant. I've had this for probably 7 or 8 years. I thought it was a goner, but the roots are tough and it held on, and the fish keep burying it, so I have to keep digging it out again. But as you can see, it's growing some healthy leaves. Got some new growth. There's a new leaf coming out. I don't know if you can see that. Hard to see, but it is doing pretty well. I'm happy with that. When I restarted up the tank again with new plants, in the back you can see some contortion val. Again, 3 months, and it really hasn't taken off that well. I've had this plant before, or a different version of it, and it can overtake a tank. I expect that at some point it's going to get fully acclimated and take off, and should grow a little longer. I'm hoping not to have the super long vallisneria that goes over the top of the tank, and I've removed some of the longer leaves that have grown up in hopes that it'll stay fairly short. This big green plant in the front here, that's your typical Amazon sword bleheri variety, and this I've only had in the tank for about 2 weeks, but it's grown 5 or 6 new leaves. Seems to be doing very well, acclimated right away. Got a new leaf coming in now. Just can't see, it's behind the fish really. Again, the fish tend to dig this up, so I'm constantly putting rocks around it, but they still get in there. The root system's pretty big, so I think it's going to be okay, and it seems to be healthy. Nice healthy growth. School of fish that you see there are rummy-nosed tetras. They make a nice addition to the tank. They're very prone to schooling, which looks nice in the tank. Any other plants? I have some moss that I'm trying, which I just bought. This is a willow moss. It doesn't really look like much right now, and I tried gluing it on because it seemed a little bit delicate, and I didn't necessarily want to tie it down. Sometimes I could damage it. I've heard that super glue is aquarium safe, and I'm hoping that's true. So the super glue turns a little white in the water when you first put it in. After about a week it should cure, and you won't be able to see it. And hopefully the moss will grow in. There's a little bit in the back behind the sword as well. And that's about it. I'd say tank has been established like this for about 3 months, although as I said I started with a seasoned tank that had been running for many years already, and already had the geophagus. The only other fish, I guess, well, there's a few other fish. The Parkinsons rainbow. It's really the only fish that doesn't fit in with the rest because it's the only one that's from Asia. The rest are New World fish, South American primarily. In addition, we do have a few catfish. You can see right there, otos cat. Pretty good algae eaters. There's 5 of these in the tank. See him sucking on the glass right now. There's a little guy over here too. You can get a better look at what he looks like. His markings. There's 3 more of those somewhere in the tank. And there is also a small, like a clown pleco or something. He usually hides out underneath the driftwood. Don't see him right now. That's basically it. We've just touched base on the equipment, I guess. We've got a hang-on back filter, the Aqua Clear 70 for a 30-gallon tank, so fairly decent flow. You can see the plants moving around, and that filter's been established for a long time, so lots of nitrifying bacteria in the filter medium. I just have 2 sponges and some of those concrete circles or discs or whatever they are that come with the filter. No charcoal, no chemical filtration. It's all really biological and mechanical filtration going on. The CO2 is the Fluval 88-gram disposable containers. Wasn't really into doing a full-blown expensive CO2 and didn't want to mess with DIY. This is a decent unit, although it's kind of expensive to run. You can see my CO2 is just about done there, if it could focus. But yeah, these cartridges go about, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks if you're lucky. So about $12 each for the cartridges, so they get expensive. The lighting is Aqua Life. Aquatic Life. 36 inches, 2 T5 bulbs. One is 6700K, and one is a roseate. And supposedly those combination will help with the photosynthesis. Have the lights on a timer, currently going about 10 hours. played around with that. I've had it shorter, I've had it longer, I've tried to break in the middle. Right now the algae seems to be at bay. I think any tank is going to have some algae, but as you can see it's not overrunning this tank. I had a trouble with some hair algae, which is gone. And I just get the green spot algae. You can see it on that rock. There's some on the glass over there. A little bit of maybe black brush algae on the older leaves, on the repens. But pretty much under control. Water change usually about 20-25% once or twice a week. I have root tabs in for the stem plants and the sword. The gravel, it's just straight gravel. It's actually a combination of pea gravel and a finer, almost a sand, not quite sand. And then there's laterite that was put in the bottom, the first layer, but last time I did that was like 2 years ago, so I'm not sure I'm getting much out of that. And then micronutrients probably once every 2 or 3 days, and macro ferts, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, about twice a week, liquid form. And it seems to be going pretty good. That's my 30-gallon Pseudo South American biotope aquarium.